Go, run.
I just came back from a failed backpacking trip. It was just supposed to be a quick one-nighter. I'll talk about what happened later, but this video I wanted to make and just go over the gear that I packed and some things that I've kind of learned along the way and things that I'm still trying to figure out. So the first thing that I'll mention is that the video will be clipped kind of in a weird way because I've already come back from the trip, but you'll see clips from the trip that had just happened. So first thing I wanted to discuss was my sleeping bag. I just recently got a fleece liner for my sleeping bag. My sleeping bag is rated for, let's see, well, for your comfort, it's for -8, basically, Celsius. I get really cold, and I'm usually cold all year round, even in the summertime. In the summertime, I wouldn't need the extreme of the fleece liner that I got, but in the wintertime and even in the springtime here, it's just too cold for me. And I'm sure many people would think that that's pretty ridiculous because it's pretty rare if it drops below freezing temperatures here, but I'm just in general a very cold person. So I got this fleece liner, and it's actually made a really big difference. And I've just actually used my stuff compression sack and kept the liner inside the sleeping bag and then just stuffed it away, and that's how I've packed it. So we'll just go stuff it. So I've got it stuffed down like this, and this is what's going to go into my backpack. The other thing that I carry is a pillow. Now, this pillow does like fold down pretty nice, but there are actual backpacking pillows that will pack down even smaller. I just use this because it's like a memory foam, and I like that added luxury because I do have like chronic neck injury, so I do need some extra comfort. I've actually been debating bringing an actual camping, like backpacking pillow in addition to this for between my knees, because I just find that it really affects me. Like, it doesn't matter what sleeping pad I'm using or anything like that. So those are just my added luxuries. It doesn't mean that's going to be necessary for everyone. And then I have my sleeping pad that I use. This I really like. It packs down quite small. This is just a Thermarest Neo Air, and it's been great. The big fail on our backpacking trip was we have 2 of these, and Kona actually popped our other one, and it was already dark out, but we decided to pack up and hike back because we didn't have a repair kit. We were just going for one night. It was supposed to be really quick. We weren't even going to be gone 24 hours. So we just decided to pack up and go. It wasn't the worst thing, like, only because Ruger was being a bit of a princess and he was whining a lot because he didn't have like a pad to sleep on. There wasn't a lot of room for him to sleep on top of us or anything like that, and we didn't bring anything extra for him. I'm just trying to bring down the weight of the things that we pack and bring with us and only bring what's absolutely necessary. I'll jump back to that kind of lesson learned and what I'm going to do moving forward. But on that note as well, I'm going to make sure that I have just a quick repair kit that I can just stuff on the bottom here. There's a little pocket, so I can just stuff that in there and bring it and be more prepared next time. Now, my camping tent, I did have a backpacking tent. It has been quite destroyed over just a few years, so, and it's also now too small. It's a 2-person tent, but now that we have 4 dogs, it's not really doable. If I'm by myself and I had the 4 dogs, it'd be great, but 2 people and 4 dogs, just not happening. So now I'm using a tent that I've actually had for over a decade, and it's from Canadian Tire. It's a 3-person tent, but as you can imagine, a tent being from Canadian Tire, it's not going to be as light as one of the bigger brand backpacking tents. So I'm using this, like I said, decade-year-old tent from Canadian Tire, and I have stuffed it down into one of these waterproof compression sack. So it's the same thing that I use for my sleeping bag. And I just decided to put it in one of these to get it down smaller. And then what I did in addition was then here was the poles for it. And the poles I just put on the side of my backpack. And then the actual tent part I've put into my backpack. Some other items is, of course, Jetboil. I've got bear spray, knife, and headlamp. And then I also bring one of these really lightweight packing cubes. And inside, all I really have is just my clothes. So I usually pack thermal like long johns, long sleeve, and then I usually do a lightweight, just like fleece long sleeve, just so that I know that I can stay warm at night in case I'm gonna get cold. Depending on the time of year, I'll add different things. Like if it was gonna be warmer weather, I'm gonna make sure that I have something lighter. I do have a merino wool tank top. I might do that instead. If it's colder out, I'll also pack a toque. Summertime, I might pack a hat so that I can just kind of be protected a bit from the sun. Of course, I'll pack like socks, underwear, and then there'll be things like my toothbrush, toothpaste. I do a light packing towel just to like wipe down my face if I need. And then along with the Jetboil, I'll also have just one of those sporks. And this time, what I'm doing differently is I haven't actually used this yet because it came after we left for the trip. But typically the places that we go, there is a water source. And in the past, I've used one of those SteriPens, and it worked great, but it was so long ago and I can't find enough information to know if it's still good to use now. But what I got was one of these LifeStraw gravity bags. And how my understanding of how it's going to work is I'm going to scoop it up with water and I'm going to clip it at the top, and then it's going to hang on like a tree branch, and then this clips into here, and then here is where the filter is, and I can get filtered water into a water bottle or into the Jetboil. I also have like water purification tabs just in case anywhere I go I might be a little bit worried. Where we live, we don't have to worry too much, but of course we're not gonna drink, you know, lake water and not treat it or have it filtered. So that's gonna be something cool that I'm gonna try out this time, because in the past I have actually packed in water, and a significant amount of water, just so that I'm not dehydrated from a hike, so that my dogs have fresh water, so that we have water for our meals. And that's what we did this time, and it wasn't too bad, but honestly, to not have to pack in water is obviously going to make a huge difference on weight, and the more that I can reduce the weight, the better it's going to be for me able to sustain backpacking longer, just because I am very mindful of the injuries that I suffer from. So the other thing too is dehydrated backpacking food. Now I have this on this side because I am also going to go over what what goes into the dogs' packs, because they carry quite a bit of stuff. The backpack that I've actually just started using is this North Face pack. It's a 55 liter. I do have an Osprey 65 liter. I found that I was just packing it to the brim, and it was unnecessary. So I ended up actually purchasing this from Winners, and it was super cheap, and it's been incredible. It feels so good. It sits on my body properly. I find it much more comfortable than the Osprey, which is kind of funny because the Osprey was really expensive. It was one of those ones where when you're in the store, it like gets heat molded to your body. So I remember walking around the store with it on so it could conform to like my hips, and it was like properly fitted for me. But for some reason, when I wear it, I'm just really uncomfortable. The pack didn't ever cause me any like chafing or like bruising or blistering, nothing like that, but I just found it really uncomfortable to wear. And this backpack, I'm just finding it really comfortable, which is just so funny because it wasn't like any, you know, outdoor expert from a store was helping me fit this to me. It was literally a winner's find, and I purchased it. I came home, packed it up with everything, walked around with it to make sure that even with the weight, it felt good. And then I even did a trial run hike in it with a bunch of stuff packed into it. And then of course we've backpacked in it, and it has been amazing. So really happy about this, and all of this stuff here fit into the backpack nicely. I still had a little bit of room if I needed to put some extra stuff in. Some things that I just wanted to quickly talk about the pack, not specifically the pack in general, but what else I'm bringing, is I have this really cute little keychain that I put on my pack, and it's actually to hold your poop bag. So we always want to clean up after our dogs when we're on the trails, and instead of stuffing into my backpack, it just like shoves in like this. I will clip in a video later that shows like how that'll look. I have this really cute little keychain that I attached to my backpack, and it's to hold your dog poop. So it's really neat, and I used it as we were hiking back last night. And then in my top pouch here is where I put those water treatment tabs. I have just like some really lightweight leashes just in case I need as a backup, and then a little tiny first aid kit. Okay, so now into the dog stuff. So this is where a little bit of a lesson learned. So this past weekend when we backpacked, or attempted to, what happened was we backpacked in, we set everything up, and we had gone to bed. Lute then had to go potty, so I let him and a bunch of other dogs out. We did have a boarding dog with us, so all the dogs came out of the tent except for Kona. But then when we came all back into the tent, Kona was very aggravated because she was disrupted from her sleep, as she normally gets, and she's the one that will always be muzzled when we're tenting because the confined space for her can be a lot. So she just has a tough time at the start to settle in, and then once she's settled, she'll sleep and she'll be fine. But when we came back into the tent, she was unsettled again, and that's when the mattress popped. So, or the sleeping pad popped. So that was great. So it was dark out, and we packed everything up and hiked back. Colton said that he would sleep without the sleeping pad, but honestly, I really didn't want to do that. He works really hard during the week, and I didn't feel good about it. We didn't have to be backpacking, like, you know, it was a fun experience for what it was, and there was no issues to just pack up and hike out. And in the dark, I was a little bit nervous, but I'll clip a video that'll kind of talk about that at the end. So also with that, I mentioned that Ruger was being a little bit of a princess, that he had to sleep. We were on a tenting pad, and so he had to obviously sleep in the tent, just on the bare tent like floor, without any kind of sleeping pad or sleeping bag, nothing like that. And he was a little whiny about it and being a little bit restless about it, and I didn't really anticipate that from him, but it's fine. So going in, all the dogs wore their backpacks, and each dog carried their own sweater. So they each wear a sweater to bed, and that's just because I have allergies to the dog hair, and I just want to contain the hair within the sweaters. So that's really my only reason. I'm sure that some dogs would really value from the sweaters if they have really thin coats and it's colder out. All my dogs honestly wouldn't need the jackets, but it's for my benefit than anything else. So each dog has their own sweater that I actually pack into a dry bag, and then I will just like stuff it down and put it in the backpack. And the reason for that is because while we're hiking, they'll go grab water from, you know, the rivers, or it might be like muddy and swampy, anything like that. So a lot of the times the bottom of the backpacks do get wet. So anything that they're carrying that I need to stay dry, I just put into a dry bag. And then depending on which dog, they carried something else to even out the other side of the pack. So I'm not going to go into what every dog carried on this trip, because basically it was sweater on one side, and then on the other side, Callie carried the dehydrated food. Kona had a water bowl and her muzzle. Ruger had some extra leashes and a muzzle. and Loot had some dog boots in his other side of the pack. I didn't pack food for the dogs on this trip because we left later in the day, so I fed them an early dinner before we left, and then we were going to be coming back in the morning, so then they were just going to eat a late breakfast. Otherwise, if we were going for longer, I would have packed food and they would have all carried their own ration of food. That also would have been like a Ziploc bag or a dry bag, something along those lines. So now, from what I learned from this trip, because of how Ruger was behaving and just having a really hard time settling that he was not on his own sleeping pad or sleeping blanket, when we came home and the next day and I was airing out all the gear, I decided to see what would be the best solution to create a better sleeping environment in the tent while backpacking, because of course there's tons of options when you're car camping to make it really easy. If we car camp, the dogs have their kennels in the truck to sleep in, and you just have more luxuries of the things that you can bring. So this time what I'm going to do is so not each, all the dogs will have their sweaters, but not each of them are going to carry them. So what's going to happen is, this is Callie's bag. Callie will still carry the dehydrated food, and if she was carrying in addition her own food and just became too much, then I would just pack this in my own bag. You know, of course Colton comes with me, so he would be able to also put those extra things in his bag if needed, like he can put the Jetboil in the food and those types of things in his bag as well, so that we can distribute all of the items between both bags. But all of this, if I was going alone, all of this would fit in my bag, and then the stuff for the dogs in their bags. So for Callie, she would have dehydrated food, and then she would carry a sweater for both. She would probably carry 2 sweaters, her and Kona's, in the dry bag that would go in one side. And then in the other side, I've got water bowl and then Kona's muzzle. And then this is Kona's bag, and Kona's bag has a bed that will go into a dry bag. This isn't a dry bag, so it'll go into a dry bag, and this is just a old Ruffwear sleeping bed. It's almost like a pad, and it's not very big, but it's just right size for the dogs. Now, the reason for this is because I've been trying to decide what is going to be the best for Kona, so that I can reduce that stress of her just having a hard time settling when we're all getting in the tent together, and what's going to make it a little bit more comfortable for her. And so what I've decided to do is I am going to try next time to bring her own tent. Now, I know that sounded crazy, but bear with me. So I have these dog tents. They're basically like little pop-up like crates, if you will. And the tent is in here. This is what it fits in. And it's just a little pop-up tent, and the poles for it, there was 2 poles, and they're like only about, I don't know, this long. And so I put them in my pole bag. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up her little tent, and I'm going to put it next to our tent underneath that rain fly. So when you have kind of that gear space between the tent and the rain fly, I'm going to put her tent right there. So she's still going to be right there next to us, and I can like see her through like the mesh door. And then she's going to be still covered extra from any elements if it rained or anything like that, because we'll still have that top piece that goes over our tent, that rain fly. And so then that's where she'll go there. And I'm going to see how that works. And then she'll have her own space. She'll have her own little bed there. I'm still going to bring her muzzle just in case of anything. So that's going to be for Kona. And then Loot here, his bag has Ruger's muzzle, boots. And the boots I have in a few different sizes just in case any of the dogs were to hurt like their paw or anything. And then I also have here, this is another dry bag, and it has toilet paper in it. And then now to the other part of the experiment of lesson learned. So this is Ruger's pack. His pack is the biggest pack. So all of these are Ruffwear Approach packs, and this one is the Ruffwear Palisades pack. It's the one where the pack can come off and you can just have the like Webmaster style harness. So what I decided to do was I looked through all of my Ruffwear camping beds that I have, all the different styles that I have, and I narrowed it down to 2 that I can actually get fit into this pack. I really struggled figuring out what will fit into the pack. And so as you can see, it's pretty full, but it's 2 beds and it's evenly distributed, so it's gonna sit on Ruger really nicely. He's also the biggest dog, so he can carry the most, but even this is very light, so I'm not concerned about that. So on one side, I have stuffed in, this is an old Ruffwear bed. It's the Clear Lake blanket. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the waterproof compression sacks for both of these beds that I'm going to show you, just so then they're also protected and will stay dry. So this one is just a big blanket. It looks like a sleeping bag, and it's just a big blanket. And so then this will be great because I can like fold it, and so it can be doubled up. Like 2 dogs can fit on this. And then on the other side, again, I'll get a waterproof compression sack for this. This is the older version of the Highlands sleeping bag. Now, I have the new version, but the reason why I'm not going to be using the new version is because I can't get it into this pack, and the zipper doesn't go as far as this one does. So this is a dog sleeping bag, and when you unzip it, it zips so much that it can fold out and be completely flat, and then I can have a dog here and a dog here. So basically, between this and this, I can make a whole side of the tent all for the dogs to be comfortable, and I'm hoping that that's going to help with Ruger's being a little brat. So we'll see. But the other Highlands bed, sleeping bag, sorry, it just doesn't zip as far. It like zips more like to here, and so then you have this like bunching that happens, so I can't fully open it up to lay it flat. So that's why I'm going to use this one. Plus this one, as you saw, I was able to get into the pack, and the other one I just couldn't. So that's what I'm going to try moving forward. So on the next trip, this is what I'm going to use. I'll give an update to see if that ended up working, because the tent that we're using right now, it is a 3-person tent, and it's a very true 3-person tent. You can very much fit 3 sleeping pads. I did even think about bringing the dogs their own sleeping pad, like using a 3rd one of these. And then I know, like, well, I have one, Thermarest makes basically like a very light sheet that goes over top, and I could put that just to protect it, so from any abrasions of the nails. And I could just put this in one of the dogs' packs because it's small enough that it can fit. I thought about doing that, and I might still try, like if this doesn't work, that's what I'm going to try as my next resort, and see if it works. And maybe what I'll do is, maybe I'll try both. I do have another pad like this. It's just a different, it's not the Neo Air, but it fits small like this. So maybe I'll use that on one trip, and then use this on one trip, and then do another video and see what worked best and let you guys know. So we'll see how that goes. And the other thing that I kind of thought to do was, I also have from Thermarest, it's like a coupler, so you can, it's like a very light sheet that goes over 2 sleeping pads to connect them together. The only reason why I'm thinking about maybe bringing that next time, because I can easily stuff it into the same bag, like that's how lightweight it is, or I can stuff it into the sleeping bag compression sack, is just so that it protects the actual sleeping pad from any abrasions of the dogs. So that's the only thing that I'm thinking that I might add into my pack. But again, it's not gonna do anything much just because it's so lightweight, and it'll fit into like either this or this, and I'll be on my way. So I'll clip some pieces of the trip that we had that wasn't pretty epic fail, but that's okay. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and if you have any tips that I haven't discussed, and let me know in the comments. I'll do another video over the next couple months where I can show if this worked really well or if this for the dogs worked well. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. So we're doing a short, just one night backpacking trip with the dogs. We got a boarding dog with us too, so that's why we're doing a short one. Just to make sure that she'll handle it no problem. She's been with us before, hikes with us a bit, so I'm not worried about the hiking part. And we packed a bit of a bigger tent so that we can all fit, five of us dogs and 2 of us humans. I've also packed Ruger's little quote-unquote birthday cake. He'll get that pretty much right when we get there. His birthday is on Monday, so that's kind of what this trip's about. And I'll document more stuff as we go along. Let's go. Come on, Cal, go. Doggos, doggos. All right, so we got the tent up. Backpacking, I wanted to pack as minimal as possible, keep the weight down, and what I did with the dogs' packs is, this one is Kona's, and in each of the packs I just have a dry bag, and in the dry bag I put in the dogs' sweaters just so that they would stay dry, because on the hike there was snow and then there's areas of water, so the packs themselves would get wet, as you can see at the bottom here. So I wanted to keep their sweaters dry, so each of them have a sweater in a dry bag that I just rolled up and had on one side of the pack, and then on the other side of the pack, depending on which dog it was, they were carrying something different. So for Kona on the other side, we have a water dish and her muzzle. For Callie's, I put in our dehydrated food. For Ruger's, I put a couple leashes and also a muzzle for him. And then for Lutz, I put in, what side was it? Just some dog boots that have a variety of sizes, just in case any of them cut their paw or anything like that. So that's what's in the dog's pack. And then we did pack in water this time, which typically we wouldn't, but the water filter that I had ordered didn't come in. So we did pack water, so the dogs would have fresh water, we'll have water for ourselves and to make the food. And then because it's just one night, we were very minimal on what we packed. One thing that I did with the tent is we are using like a Canadian Tire tent, so not even a backpacking tent, but I put it into a dry bag stuff sack that we use for our sleeping bags, and that really packed it down really nice, and we just separated the poles from it, so it really put down the weight and the actual size of it, which was great. Well, that was a fail. We're hiking back in the dark because Kona popped the sleeping pad of one of our sleeping pads. So that's not fun. I'm a little bit stressed that the dogs don't have lights on, but I have my headlamp and they're very reflective with all their rough wear gear. There's reflective strips, as you can see, on their harnesses and on their backpacks. The dogs still have their sweaters on, so reflective gear on that too, so that's great.